Roger Federer just gave Alex Eala a brand new car and the internet hasn't stopped talking about it. But what unfolded wasn't just a gift, it was a moment that peeled back the curtain on mentorship, gratitude and the quiet, invisible bonds that live inside tennis. Because no one saw it coming, not the fans, not the cameras, maybe not even Alex herself. As one minute she was celebrating a long-earned career milestone and the next she stood frozen in disbelief while one of the greatest athletes of all time placed unexpected keys into her hands. A split second where reality lagged behind emotion. While the cameras caught everything, the tears welling up, the shock written across her face, the embrace that felt less like congratulations and more like a passing of the torch. And within hours millions were asking the same questions: why her, why now, and what did this really mean? Unaware that Alex Eala and Roger Federer's story didn't begin with a viral clip but years earlier in the quiet corners of a Swiss training facility where a teenage girl from the Philippines was grinding through endless drills far from home, chasing a dream that looked impossible to everyone except her, long before she enrolled at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain at just 14. After spending crucial developmental months in Switzerland where the Federer name wasn't just legendary, it was everywhere, shaping a tennis culture influenced deeply by his success and philanthropy, turning the Swiss tennis federation into a global magnet for young talent. And Alex was one of them, quiet, determined, relentlessly hungry, never coached by Roger, rarely seeing him at all, yet always feeling his presence through foundation-funded programs, world-class access, and a philosophy of discipline, grace and constant improvement woven into every court she trained on, until one rare day when Roger watched her play and everything subtly changed. He didn't say much at all, which somehow made it matter even more because instead of talking he watched, really watched, her footwork gliding across the court, her shot selection under pressure, the way she fought for every single point as if practice itself was a final. And when the session ended he simply walked over, introduced himself like she didn't already know the face the world worshipped, and said something almost painfully simple: "Keep going, you have something special." Words that, for Alex, instantly became fuel, something she carried with her through every loss that stung, every injury that tested her patience, every lonely night when doubt crept in and told her to quit, while Roger, without announcements or noise, quietly kept track, following her results, watching her lift the 2022 US Open Girls Singles Trophy, seeing her crack the WTA rankings, understanding her story as a Filipino athlete breaking barriers in a sport long dominated by Europe and North America, and respecting it deeply even though the world knew none of this, because to most fans Alex Eala was just a promising rising star, but to Roger Federer she was proof that the next generation was ready, that the pathways he'd helped build were working, that tennis at its core was still about passion, sacrifice and belief. So when the chance came to do something meaningful, something that could honor her journey and spark inspiration beyond her alone, he didn't hesitate because he'd always believed in gestures that mattered, not for headlines or publicity, but because in a sport that could feel cold and transactional, moments of genuine human connection were rare and powerful. And this was one of those moments, poised to change everything, triggered not by hype but by timing, by a milestone in late April when Alex Eala pulled off the biggest win of her professional career, finally breaking through after months of grinding challengers and lower-tier WTA events, defeating a top 50 player in straight sets at a WTA 250, her first real statement on the main tour. A match alive with aggressive baseline shots, fearless net approaches, and a refusal to be intimidated, made even heavier by the context of a wrist injury that nearly ended her season, weeks of rehab, slipping rankings, nervous sponsors, suffocating pressure, and then the comeback stronger and sharper, culminating in a post-match interview where she spoke rawly about family sacrifices in the Philippines, years of loneliness abroad, the coaches and physios who believed when results didn't, and finally a memory that stopped everyone cold, when she said years ago someone she looked up to told her she had something special, words she didn't believe then but kept alive, carrying them every time she wanted to quit. "I thought about those words," she said, and she never once named Roger Federer because she didn't need to, not in a sport this small where stories travel faster than serves, where whispers become headlines in hours, and almost immediately people began connecting the dots. Journalists digging through old interviews, fans resurfacing photos of a young Eala grinding on courts in Switzerland, and suddenly the moment everyone thought they understood expanded into something deeper, something layered, something human. And Roger saw it all: the interview, the emotion in her eyes, the quiet weight she'd been carrying for years. And in that instant he made a decision, not as a PR calculation, not as a sponsor fulfilling an obligation, but as someone who knew exactly what it meant to fight for every inch of progress in a sport that can be ruthless and unforgiving. So he reached out to her team, casually asked where she'd be in the coming weeks, and began planning something meant to honor not just a single win but an entire journey, something that would speak directly to every young player watching from empty courts and borrowed facilities. A message that said your effort matters, your story matters, and the people who've already walked this road, they see you even when it feels like no one else does. And quietly the stage was set, the pieces aligned, the moment drew closer while nobody, not even Alex herself, had any idea what was about to happen until suddenly it did. The moment destined to break the internet, disguised at first as nothing more than a routine sponsor event. A simple tennis exhibition in Zurich where Alex Eala was invited to celebrate her recent success. Told it would be low-key, casual, a few meet and greets, some photos, maybe a short speech, nothing dramatic. So she arrived in a simple outfit with no expectations at all, just grateful to be there, stepping into a venue that was elegant but understated, completely unaware that her life was about to change in a way no trophy ever could. A small crowd of fans, journalists, and tennis enthusiasts filled the space, their quiet chatter floating in the air as Alex walked in, smiled warmly, waved instinctively, and took her place near the front without any sense that her world was about to shift. While the host began speaking, thanking everyone for coming and highlighting Alex's recent achievements, the familiar rhythm of praise followed by standard lines and polite applause, comfortable and predictable, until suddenly the host said something that made her heart skip a beat. Alex, there's someone here today who wanted to celebrate your journey with you. And in that instant the lights dimmed, a side door slowly opened and Roger Federer walked in, detonating the room as fans screamed, cameras flashed, and Alex's hand flew to her mouth in pure disbelief, her mind racing to catch up with what her eyes were seeing as Roger, with his signature calm and effortless grace, walked straight toward her with arms open. And when they embraced, the rest of the world seemed to fall away, the noise dissolving, the cameras fading, the pressure evaporating, leaving only two people who understood what it meant to fight quietly for something bigger than themselves. Before Roger stepped back, smiled gently, and said he had been following her journey for a long time and wanted to honor not just what she had accomplished on the court, but the way she had represented her country, her family, and everyone who had ever doubted themselves. Then gestured toward the entrance as two assistants wheeled in a covered platform, the crowd falling into stunned silence, Alex looking on confused, Roger nodding softly. The cover pulled back to reveal a brand new Mercedes-Benz E-Class, sleek in silver, its presence almost unreal, complete with a custom license plate reading E22, her initials and the year she won the US Open girls title, freezing Alex in place as her eyes filled with tears, turning to Roger completely speechless, while he simply smiled, letting the moment speak louder than any words ever could. You've earned this, he said, not loudly, not for the cameras, but with a weight that made every word land, not because of one match but because of everything you've done to get here. And that was all it took, because Alex couldn't hold it in anymore, the tears finally spilling over as she hugged him again, this time longer and tighter, the kind of embrace that carries years of struggle and gratitude. While the crowd erupted into applause that felt less like noise and more like release. And when Roger placed the keys in her hands, she held them like they were made of glass, afraid that if she squeezed too hard the moment might shatter, still caught in disbelief as the cameras captured everything, her hands trembling, her smile breaking through tears, the way Roger gently rested a hand on her shoulder as if to quietly say, "You belong here, you always have." And then she found her voice, pushing through the emotion, through the tears, managing to say she didn't even know what to say. That this was everything, thanking him for believing in her when she hadn't believed in herself, words raw and imperfect but honest. And within minutes the video was everywhere, spreading across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, news outlets, sports channels. The clip of Alex breaking down, of Roger's calm smile, of the keys changing hands looping endlessly, going viral instantly, millions of views in the first hour, tens of millions by the end of the day. But the internet wasn't just watching anymore, it was reacting, dissecting, debating, because not everyone saw the moment the same way. Because as beautiful as the moment was, it ignited a debate that nobody saw coming, the kind that spreads just as fast as admiration, because the first wave of reactions was pure emotion, fans flooding social media with messages of support, awe, and inspiration, tweets declaring this is what sports is about, others calling Roger Federer a class act, thousands sharing the clip with captions like "I'm not crying, you're crying, and this is why we love tennis," while Alex's compatriots in the Philippines felt it especially deeply, the hashtag Proud Pinay trending for hours as news outlets in Manila ran the story on repeat and parents posted about showing the video to their kids as a lesson in perseverance, humility, and belief, turning it into a moment of national pride. A young Filipina being honored by one of the greatest athletes of all time. But as the hours passed, the mood began to shift, admiration giving way to questions, comments growing sharper and more critical, people asking why her, pointing out that so many players are struggling, grinding without resources, asking why she received a luxury car. Others highlighting that Alex came from a relatively privileged background compared to athletes from other developing nations, that her father was a professional basketball player, that she had access to elite training early on, arguing this wasn't a rags to riches story, with one viral tweet claiming it was privilege rewarding privilege, and then came the think pieces, sports journalists debating whether Federer's gesture, however well-intentioned, sent the wrong message, questioning if it created unrealistic expectations for young athletes, asking whether we were celebrating hard work or simply proximity to fame, while other articles scrutinized the optics, suggesting Federer could have donated the money to development programs in Africa or Southeast Asia instead of giving a car to someone already on the rise. And while the criticism wasn't universal, it was loud enough to force people to choose sides, with some defending Roger's right to honor someone he had personally mentored and believed in, and others arguing that in a sport already criticized for its lack of diversity and accessibility, gestures like this, no matter how kind, risked reinforcing the very inequalities tennis continues to wrestle with. Alex stayed silent for the first 24 hours, choosing restraint while her team urged her to let the moment speak for itself. But the noise only grew louder, swelling with every refresh as comments on her Instagram swung wildly from heartfelt congratulations to sharp accusations, strangers telling her she didn't earn this, that she was just in the right place at the right time, and then the conspiracy theories arrived, louder and more confident, some claiming the entire moment was staged by Mercedes-Benz as a marketing stunt, pointing out how perfectly framed the car reveal looked, TikTok breakdowns insisting it had been planned months in advance. Others speculating that Federer's sponsorship contracts required a certain number of public appearances and this was simply a calculated PR move disguised as generosity, until even other players began weighing in, including one former WTA pro speaking anonymously on a tennis podcast who said she was happy for Alex but argued that girls were grinding in challengers without money for plane tickets, calling Roger's gesture nice but tone-deaf. And as the debate raged, Alex sat alone in her hotel room scrolling through the comments, feeling the full weight of it crash down on her, realizing that what was supposed to be the best moment of her life was now being dissected, questioned, and twisted into something ugly, knowing she had to say something but not knowing how, because how do you defend a gift you never asked for? How do you explain that it was never about a car but about what it symbolized? And then, just as the noise reached its peak, Roger Federer broke his silence, and what he said shifted everything because 3 days after the viral moment he posted a statement not through a PR team or a press release but in a simple handwritten note shared on his Instagram, and it hit differently, beginning with the words, "I've been reading the comments, and I want to address them directly," followed by the line that reframed the entire conversation. "The gift I gave Alex Eala wasn't about the car, it was never about the car. It was about honoring a journey he had watched unfold for years, one that most people never see because it happens in empty gyms, in long rehab sessions, in quiet moments of doubt that no camera ever captures." He continued, his words steady, "When I was young there were people who believed in me before I had any results to show for it. Coaches who gave me extra time, mentors who saw something in me I didn't see in myself, and that belief changed my life. I've spent the last decade trying to create opportunities for young players because I know how much it matters. Not just the financial support but the message it sends. Someone sees you, someone believes in you, keep going." Then came the part that silenced the critics. Alex didn't ask for this. She didn't expect it. And to those who said she didn't need it, he admitted, "You're right, she would have succeeded without it." But that wasn't the point. The point was to celebrate effort, honor resilience, and show young athletes that the work they put in, even when nobody's watching, truly matters. He confronted the privilege argument head-on. Yes, Alex had opportunities, but she also left home at 12 to train abroad, fought through injuries, battled ranking struggles, and carried the immense pressure of representing an entire nation. Privilege doesn't erase sacrifice, and success doesn't diminish hard work. And then came the kicker. "If you think this gesture was wrong," he said, "I respect that, but I'd ask you this. When was the last time you celebrated someone's success without conditions, without questioning if they deserved it? We've built a culture that tears down people for winning, and I refuse to be part of that. The response was immediate. The backlash melted into support. Athletes from every corner of sport shared the post. Serena Williams wrote simply, "This is everything," while Naomi Osaka admitted, "Needed to hear this today." Even the critics who had questioned the gesture admitted that Roger's words reframed the entire moment. Alex saw the post and cried again, but these were different tears. No longer shock or overwhelm, but gratitude and relief. Because Roger had done something most people don't. He stood by his decision, explained his reasoning, and refused to let the noise diminish the meaning. 2 days later, Alex posted her own response, thanking Roger not just for the car, but for believing in her journey. She addressed the criticism head-on, acknowledging her privilege while defending her right to be celebrated. "I know I've had opportunities many don't have," she wrote, "but I also know what it's like to be doubted, to be told, you're not good enough, to fight for every single point like your life depends on it. This gift wasn't about luxury. It was about validation. And I'll carry that with me forever." Slowly the conversation shifted. People stopped debating whether the gesture was right or wrong and began asking better questions. How do we support young athletes? How do we balance celebration with awareness of inequality? How do we create more moments like this, not fewer? In the middle of it all, Alex Eala and Roger Federer became symbols of something bigger. Not just mentorship, not just success, but proof that in a world obsessed with tearing people down, there's still power in lifting them up. And the impact didn't stop there. A month later, the ripple effects were undeniable. Alex Eala's social media following had tripled. She landed 2 new endorsement deals citing the viral moment. Her next tournament drew record crowds. And young athletes from developing nations began sharing their own stories, tagging both Roger and Alex, hoping to be seen. Even Federer's foundation saw a 40% increase in donations, many donors pointing specifically to the ELA moment as inspiration. The car itself, Alex drove to her next tournament not as a display, not as a flex, but as a quiet reminder of the journey behind every point she played, posting a photo before leaving with the keys in hand and a simple caption, "Every mile is a thank you." But the true legacy wasn't something you could touch or park in a driveway. It was ideological, a shift in thinking. Because in a sport often criticized for elitism, for barriers to entry, for the way success is gate-kept and reserved for the few, this moment proved that change is possible. Not through sweeping structural reforms, not through committees or policy papers, but through singular, deliberate acts of recognition, through the choice of someone with influence to say, "You matter. Your story matters." It was a ripple that reached far beyond tennis courts, a reminder that in the world of competition, the quiet acknowledgement of effort, the celebration of resilience, can speak louder than any trophy, any headline, or any prize. Keep fighting. Roger Federer didn't fix tennis's inequality problem with a car, but he did something just as vital. He reminded everyone why they fell in love with the sport. Not for trophies, not for prize money, but for the stories, the underdog victories, the fleeting moments of grace and connection that rise above rankings and records. And Alex? He kept grinding. She won her next match, then another. Her ranking climbed steadily. Invitations to bigger tournaments followed. And every time someone asked about the car, about the viral moment, she said the same thing. It wasn't about what she received, it was about what it represented. And she vowed to spend her career making sure that moment mattered. Years from now, people will debate its significance. Some will call it heartwarming, others performative. The truth sits somewhere in between. A moment imperfect, complicated, yet undeniably powerful because it forced conversations about privilege, effort, celebration, and criticism about what we value and why. And maybe, just maybe, it inspired someone, a kid in a small town hitting balls against a wall, dreaming bigger, to keep going, to believe that their invisible journey matters, that someone somewhere is watching, and that one day their moment will come too. That's what Federer understood and what Alex Eala proved. This story, beneath all the noise and debate, was really about that. So here's the question. Was it just a generous gift, or the start of a new era in how tennis honors rising stars? The moment Federer handed Alex those keys wasn't just captured on camera. It was etched into the memory of anyone who has ever fought for something they believed in. It reminded us that sports, at their best, are about recognition, about seeing potential, and about celebrating success without apology. Love it or question it, this moment mattered and it still echoes through tennis today.